honest with you. As we do every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:05, we welcome in our good friend Jovan Alford. Great follow on Twitter at Jovan10, staff writer DK Live, TotalSportsLive.com. Kind enough to join us on the 1490 Sports Betting Radio Studios hotline. Jovan, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing very well. How are your bets over the weekend?
I would say Sunday was much better than Saturday. That Niners-Packers game with little to no offense kind of just like killed all the player props for that one.
Yeah, and then I would imagine Sunday, Buffalo and Kansas City. I mean, take your pick of the litter, right? It looked like you had a couple nice player props in that one.
Yeah, Gabriel Davis, I had him for the anytime touchdown. I just wish I took him for like 2 or more touchdowns because he knew he was going to have like 4 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. I want to go back just for a second, and then obviously we'll do a little sneak peek into these games, conference championships. Out of all 4 games, I posted this, I tweeted out like kind of the what the you-know-what moment, right? The play calling of the Titans, special teams Green Bay, not squib kicking it if you're Buffalo, and then letting Cooper Kupp get behind the defense if you're the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, what moment, when you go back years from now and think about that weekend of games, what moment will stand out in your mind the most?
Man, that's a good one because there were so many good moments. I think for me, the first one that comes to mind, and I know this is weird, but the first one that comes to mind is the block punt in that San Francisco Green Bay game.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? Like in that spot too.
Sure.
It was just perfect execution in the long snapper. He gets pushed back by a defensive lineman, and at first the Niners defender didn't even see the football at first. So I'm just like, oh no, is he actually going to get it? Is he going to score? So I think that one is for me. It would be like the moment for me. Another moment for me will just be the Rams offense just going silent in that second half after having an explosive first half and really just almost giving the game away from the Cam Akers fumble and even Brian Allen, the center, tossing the ball over the head of Matt Stafford.
Yeah, no, those are great points, by the way. And you mentioned the Akers fumble could have changed the complexion of the game, and then you look at the block punt and the block field goal in that Niners and Green Bay game, which obviously they go in the locker room only down 7-0, kind of like a sigh of relief and a breath of life. And then we fast forward to Sunday night and the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, I know it's been the hot topic. I've been, talking a lot with the listeners and the guest on this one. All right, late in that game, you're watching this game, and even from a betting standpoint, you have to sweat it out, right, depending upon what side you hung your hat. For me, it was Kansas City, but I'm watching the end of the game, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, you didn't squib it, and then you let Kelsey get that free release, and the kicker that I was ragging on all day long finally comes up clutch with a 49-yarder. So he bails me out to get me into overtime where the Chiefs eventually win it. That's as crazy as a game as I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think no one could predict it. That last, I think a minute and 13 seconds of just back-to-back nonstop action. Gabriel Davis getting wide open for a touchdown, really breaking the cornerback's ankle. To score that touchdown was just ridiculous. And like you said, they score and you're thinking, okay, Buffalo didn't leave Kansas City that much time to do something. And before you know it, right?
Yeah.
Great play calling. So first of all, started by the Chiefs going with the running back screen. That was a very underrated play in that spot because usually a lot of teams, like we saw with Dallas, right? They tried to, attack the sidelines. No, they went right to the running backs and, to the running back screen to help them get some yards. And like I said, you get Kelsey that free release. You can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, you can't. I mean, especially when the Chiefs have both timeouts as well.
Yeah. And by the way, you cannot give Patty Mahomes 13 seconds in the ball. I mean, think about that. Think how outrageous that says. 13 seconds was a death sentence in the NFL for 20, 30, 40 years, right? You were done. 13 seconds and 80 yards to go, you're done. And now we're going to sit there and say, well, hold on a second. You scored too early. You can't give a team 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. I mean, that's how crazy the game is right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how just special this team's offense been this entire playoffs. They've scored 40 points in back-to-back games. And like you said, the weapons that they have with Travis Kelce, and then you look at Tyreek Hill, the way he scored that touchdown, the second-to-last touchdown, the touchdown he scored, where he just went 0 to 60 in a blink of an eye, and he was given a peace sign before he even scored a touchdown. So, just knowing how fast that Chiefs offense runs, it's just so scary.
And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that because that was technically taunting. Now, if the NFL was to be consistent, they weren't consistent. Now, again, Buffalo was able to score in the ensuing kickoff, but if you added that yardage off the kickoff, again, who's to say what's going to happen? So, it's always about keeping it consistent. All right, here's the hot topic. I ask you this, then we'll move on. Do you have a problem with the overtime rules?
No, not at all, because I feel like defensively you have to get that stop there. You can't allow them to get it. You can't allow them to, pick up yards, and don't go into this, and I hate when teams do this, go into a prevent-style defense and giving up those yards. If you get a stop on defense, like the Bills showed they couldn't do, that was the problem there too. If you get a stop on defense, then we're talking about the Bills in the AFC Championship, so you can't say nothing about the overtime rules. It's also shocking how many players kind of didn't know that the world was decided with a coin toss. Kind of disturbing.
It's beyond disturbing. And by the way, prevent defense should be outlawed in this country. It should be outlawed. They should just throw it on an island somewhere in the Pacific and never again to be used on Sundays in the NFL. Because, all it does is prevent you from winning. That's it. That's all it does.
It just like you said, it just gives 3 yards, and there's always that chance. And I think we've seen it in a lot of instances from even this game or even a few years ago. Remember the Dolphins-Patriots game where they scored basically on a hook and ladder.
Yeah, and that's when the hook and lateral where Gronkowski was trying to make the tackle.
Yes.
The big robot. He's not going to be able to tackle anyone. Do you think that's it for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers?
Oh man, I don't think it's the end for Aaron Rodgers, because I think he still has a couple, maybe a year or 2 left that he wants to play. I don't think he wants to go out like that. Brady, on the other hand, it's tough to say, because that Buccaneers team is going to be completely different than what he had these last 2 seasons. It's not a guarantee that Chris Godwin comes back. They could lose a lot of those guys on defense. And he took a lot of hits. And, even in that Eagles game, he took a lot of hits with the offensive line getting beat the way it is. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Brady calls it quits. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers calls it quits, because he was entertained in the fact of being the Jeopardy host this past offseason. So I wouldn't put it past neither of them to call it quits. Look at Sean Payton, retiring. Who saw that coming?
Well, listen, I think you saw over the last several years, it was almost like, is this going to be the last year with the Saints? And I think not having Breeze there, it kind of makes the decision easier. But, hey, look, man, you never know what team's going to come knocking within 6 months to a year and open up their checkbook and say, hey, you want to coach the Cowboys, you want to coach the Raiders. You never know. As far as Rodgers, come on, man, I don't need to see him or Ken Jennings. That game show should have ended after Alex Trebek passed away. You cannot replace that GOAT. That's an argument for another day. All right, so conference championships, early lines. Kansas City's laying 7. The Rams are laying 3.5. We'll get the official predictions and player props on Thursday with your spot at 5:05. But you have a feel right now on a Tuesday.
I think for me right now, I'm leaning Chiefs -7 right now against the Bengals. The Bengals, I got to give it to them. The defense has played really well these first 2 games, but they're going against the Chiefs offense that is really clicking on all cylinders. And this is a Chiefs team I think that remembers just losing to the same Bengals team a couple of weeks ago in Cincinnati the way that they did. So I like the Chiefs here -7. I just think the way the offense is playing defensively, I think that's going to be the issue. Can that Chiefs defense get a stop? It also determines if Tyrann Mathieu is going to be healthy for the game. We saw once he went out the game, the Chiefs secondary just looked lost and confused. They didn't know what was going on from A to B on a lot of those plays, hence why Gabriel Davis was getting open multiple times a game. So right now, I would say I'm leaning towards Chiefs 7, but that might change depending on how the week goes. For the other game, I'm at San Fran plus 3.5. I know I'm not saying to win an outright win just because I know it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row in one season. That's very unheard of. But I think the San Fran team, again, they have nothing to lose in this spot. The Rams have a lot to lose since they were the team that was supposed to make it to, this spot. And I think that what San Fran has shown, not so much on offense, because the offense has, had a big offensive game and wild card round last week, not so much. I think what's been more impressive is their defense. That front seven has been really good, which has made life so much easier for their secondary, especially at cornerback, which isn't the strongest. So I've got to lean with the plus 3.5 right now on the Niners.
All right, lastly, before I let you get out of here, big night in the NBA. Now, I got one play because I was able to hit the Knicks covering 6 last night against Cleveland, albeit they lost. I like the under in Dallas and Golden State 210. The Mavericks, the last time they played, held Golden State to 88 points. What's your thought on the 76ers and the Pelicans? Phillies laying 11.
Man, Sixers are double-digit spreads. I don't like the way that sounds. A lot of times I don't like the way that sounds. But I think when the second half of a back-to-back, thinking of back-to-back for the Pelicans, I think the Sixers should get the cover. The way that Joel Embiid has been playing during the stretch has just been ridiculous. I think the Sixers, this will be a time for their shooters, their bench to really get going, especially from beyond the arc. The Pelicans are not a great team defending the 3, so I think the Sixers should be able to get the cover. Unless they take the foot off the gas and blow a 24-point lead, but hopefully it doesn't happen against the Pelicans.
That's right, and remember, if you're not going to ask Pop that question, you're not going to ask Doc that question. Just remember that.
There you go.
All right, we will talk to you Thursday at 5:05, pal. Always appreciate it. Great stuff as always.
Thanks.
All right, you got it. My guy, Jovan Alford, fantastic stuff. Always appreciate him for a couple moments. 5:15, give him a follow on Twitter as well. Quick timeout. Lloyd Vance on the other side. Vance's View.